friends, fans, and dairy products of all ages. This is Cheese of Ages here with another bit of League of Legends content. As you can read below or wherever it's placed as of the watching of this video, this is going to be talking more about ranked play. This is a redo of a previously launched video that pretty much nobody watched because the only 2 views were ones when I was watching it. And it's meant to give a more complete look at it, because in the previous video I'd only finished 6 of my placement matches, and this time I've finished all 10 of them. So I have done a previous video on why I don't play ranked play, so why did I decide to go ahead and try? Well, not to brag, but I went on a long winning streak recently in which when I hit 13 consecutive wins, I was like, okay, if I get to 15, I'll go ahead and try ranked, even though I know it's a toxic cesspool at the initial elos, and doesn't really get super better, but starts to thin out the higher you get up. Let's go ahead, and if I hit 15, I will at least do my placements to see where I land. And when I lost at 17, I went 16 consecutive wins. I went on to a site called OPGG to look at the information, which you can click a drop down thing and see what ELOs, well, not ELOs, but ranked, the ranked players that might be in the match have. So, like, to put it more clearly, if they are ranked players, it tells you what rank they are. And I was consistently, for 5 or 6 consecutive matches, getting placed with people that were Silver 2 or Bronze 3. So I was like, okay, so I'm probably around Silver 4 in actual ability. That was my statement. Well, and then, okay, I've started losing matches. And I'm not bragging about the 16 win streak because it ended up balancing out. Of my following 13 games, I only won 1. Mind you, I did win 3 of my placement matches, 3 of 10. So I didn't do great, but I didn't do terribly-ish. And there were mitigating factors that I will go through. For those of you that don't know, when you're first entering ranked play in most MOBAs actually, you have 10 placement matches. So this times 2. 10 placement matches, and how you do in those determines where you are placed in ranked. And it can somewhat slightly be a luck of the draw, even beyond getting teammates that are toxic or bad or DC. It's even more luck of the draw beyond that, because it places you at a default elo, and you can win that. And what ELO you get as a result of how you win and lose can statistically skew what your result is. So you can lose 5 and then win 5 and get a lower overall rating than if you won 5 and then lose 5. And they somewhat randomly place you in ELOs within like a few, within a 3-digit number point of where you actually are. So it can just mathematically put you higher or lower than you belong and get slightly skewed results. However, it's reasonably accurate, apparently. So let's go over what the matches were like. The things I have seen, my friends and fans and dairy products of all ages, the things I have seen are not meant to be seen by man and cannot be unseen. So, let's go. I'm going to go into a basic breakdown of the deciding factors of each match, all 10 of my placement matches, and also account if I won or lost. First one, right out of the gate, loss. A Katarina player auto-locked Katarina, even though mid had been called by someone in a higher pick order, because in ranked, who's higher on the list of players usually has priority. That's usually how it's done, to prevent people that load in later from not getting a chance to pick. It's more fair that way, and it's the most commonly done execution. But anyway, an auto-lock Katarina, even though mid was already called from there. And this Katarina only spoke Spanish, fed the shit out of a Rengar top laner, because she ended up going top because mid was taken. And speaking of which, mid and the jungler flamed her almost more than they were doing anything in the game. Like, toxic as hell. To this, like, non-English speaking Katarina that was feeding like hell. And, of course, this means there was no pressure anywhere. So the lane I was winning in bot, I was an ADC, and I was doing well. I was winning my lane. But then no pressure anywhere else. So slowly goes against me. And then, like, the super fed Rengar blows everybody up. Okay. Not a good start. Match 2. Loss. Mid fed a Katarina mid 1 billion kills, causing the lane me and my ADC were winning, because I was playing support instead of ADC this time, caused our lane to lose, and their entire composition was a CC heavy protect Katarina comp, which became unbeatable because Katarina got fed mid and then basically was never mid again. Just destroyed everyone everywhere because the mid laner wasn't pinging accordingly or warding accordingly. And I really couldn't do anything as our only reliable CC in the game, because their CC composition was chaining CC to take me out of the fight consistently. Once or twice I got caught up by the Scorner, but mostly it was the Malphite initiating a fight with his ultimate, knocking me up, and then they chained the CC to me, so Katarina cannot be CC'd and could just burn our squishies down. They were smart. I am willing to fully accept that loss as not bullshit, because they took their cards and they ran with them skillfully. I will concede that one. They deserved that win. And I won't even pull the Katarina is Cancerous card, because our mid laner was Fizz, so we're gonna Cancer. Against Cancer. Me being able to accept a loss because they played their cards well does not extend, however, to the third match, which is a loss. We were doing fine. Hell, initially, I was dumpstering my lane. As in, I was just destroying the guy. Our Aatrox top lane died once, because after he didn't get his role, she preferred role in Champion Select. Even though every lane was doing fine, every lane was doing great, he died one time while winning the lane, and then DC'd. Going 4v5, we still had things reasonably in hand, but we made one key mistake in not grouping at a point in time in which we should, and the Aatrox's duo queue partner abandoned us. And inevitably, the game just caved against us, because you can't win 3v5. Anyway. Fourth match. Loss. A misunderstanding in Champion Select causes me to think I was going top, because the Jinx waited until I only had 3 seconds left to pick a champion to clarify that she was going top. Everybody assumed she was going bot, because it's a freaking Jinx. And, oh, by the way, the Poppy that we had on the team was ADC instead of top. So there's like a lot of confusion. Somebody locks in Poppy, wants to go ADC. There's an ADC that wants to go top. And I was like, okay, I have only 3 seconds left to select a champion. I've got to select something. While I'm looking, Jinx clarifies, and I've already locked in by the time she's like finished the sentence, because she waited until it was 3 seconds to post something to call her position. And let it make it be clear that this game caused me to be the saltiest, most annoyed, angry, pissed off, salty, as terminology, I've ever been in my entire history of existence. If past lives exist, I could probably include those. So, yeah, this game got me as super salty. The Poppy ADC barely spoke English and for some reason was wanting to feed me kills even though she was the ADC, so I was confused most of the match. And the Jinx complained relentlessly, calling us noobs and stuff, and being all mad and salty, and saying, selling herself as being super knowledgeable of the game because she completely dumpstered a Nasus top lane. Let's see, the most powerful marksman in the entire game, beating a melee top laner who's incredibly vulnerable to ranged opponents and is hard countered by ranged champions. So one of the most powerful ranged champions in the game with one of the highest ranges against a champion whose most hard counter is ranged champions. That doesn't make you skilled. Winning the most easy matchup in possibility in League of Legends does not make you good at League of Legends. Top laner that doesn't take teleport. Even though that's pretty much the sole responsibility of the top lane, especially when AD. Teleport is used for the responsibilities of a top laner, the less important of which is teleport ganking. That's usually only a priority when you're certain types of champion. And showing up for objectives from lane, or getting back to lane from objectives quickly. The entire point of taking teleport is so that you can contribute to your team without setting yourself back in lane because you're so far off. This super knowledgeable person about the game who allegedly she knows how to play the game and says, oh, you guys need to learn how to play the game. Baron is an objective too. You guys only care about towers and getting kills. Never stop pushing towers or trying to go for kills. And pinged Baron dozens of times and then complained that we never showed up for it, even though two of us did, and she refused to go to it, saying that we should be able to do Baron by ourselves. Even though, as a rule, Baron is an objective that everybody goes to. 90% of the time. So yes, this Jinx that's constantly flaming us, calling us noobs, saying, oh, you need to learn how to play the game, basically failed to know nearly every single solitary responsibility and aspect of top laning, and the thing she was complaining us about doing, she was doing, and she was not doing the thing oriented towards the objective that is a top lane responsibility. So yeah. Also, the jungler was pinging for Baron a bunch, and was hovering around Baron doing nothing for a long period of time when nobody came to it, instead of being decisive and responding and adjusting accordingly. Oh, and late game, their obsession with Baron caused us to, instead of having all of our lanes pushed up, apparently, variably, caused us to immediately die at Baron and lose every lane. Every lane got shoved back up because they went for Baron again for no damned reason instead of pushing for the win. Oh, speaking of pushing for the win, the top laner that didn't have teleport had two occasions in which she could have teleported two minions that were on their Nexus turrets when they were not at the location, and torn down both Nexus turrets because she's fucking Jinx and super fed. So yeah. Also, the Jinx and our mid laner Zed were constantly split pushing, and we never had a 5v5 team fight. Can you tell I was salty about this match? It's been the longest section so far, and is the longest section that will be in this for counting of 10 entire games. This was the most toxic, enraging game of the set. And that includes the first game I said, where with the Spanish-speaking Katarina, with the mid and jungle doing nothing but flaming. All condensed in the freaking Jinx, and 25% the jungler who was arguing with her a lot. So it's not looking good so far with these 4 games. 5th game, loss. But it was a perfectly fine game with pleasant teammates that went well, but the top laner fed the Singed. That was up there. I never saw him ult once. He never talked, never teamfighted, and the Singed was a Singed main, so he was essentially completely unstoppable when he got Dead Man's Play. Yeah. I was dumpstering the lane I was in. It stopped mattering. I started to go on tilt, and I started playing horribly. This is one of the games I will admit I could have done a lot better in. This is a scenario in which I was one of the... I can solidly admit that I was doing badly. There were mitigating factors, but even despite the mitigating factors, I could have done much better. In the previous matches, a lot of the me not doing good was mitigating circumstances. But I probably could have played those better too. But this one is a solidly, I could have just played a lot better. It's outright. This is one of my bad games that were me being bad. I mean, I wasn't the cause of the mitigating factors, and I was doing well at first, but then I fell. Anyway. And it wasn't really explicitly anybody's fault. It's just people got fed on the enemy team. It happens. So, 6th game. Loss. Singed top again. With Dead Man's Plate again. Same Singed, I think. Maybe. But yeah, anyway. I was top this time. But, yeah, there was pretty much nothing I could do with him because I've never laid against him before. I didn't feed him, but I didn't do really good. I could have played a little bit better in this. But, yeah, this wasn't a super terrible game. However, the jungler was farming kind of crappily with the jungler enchant Devourer, which requires you to farm well, and was repeatedly complaining and flaming people, and would go out of his way to back in my lane, as there was a minion wave there, so he was stealing my experience points. So he was just flaming from the get-go, and stealing my experience points. I don't know if he did that in other lanes, but he did it like twice in mine. And on 3 different occasions made 3 completely different calls, acted on the worst one to do, and then blamed us. Oh, and one of the worst kinds of human being in this game, aside from the just straight outright toxic people, was in this game as well as our ADC. A person who queues up to play a champion for the first time and ranked. I mean, seriously, what kind of human being does that? Oh, I've never played this champion before. Maybe I should play bot games to familiarize myself with the way the kit operates. Nah, bots are easy. It's not a real test. Maybe I should play live games of normals, that's PvP, so my unfamiliarity with the champion might ruin 4 other people's day, but there's no long-term repercussions, and it's a better practicing environment for actual play, so it's somewhat forgivable, but still a dick move. No, I think I'll play this champion for the first time with no idea how to play it, in ranked where there's long-term repercussions for 4 other people in the game. That makes sense. What kind of freaking human being does that? Who is that kind of dick? I mean, it's not the most dickish thing in existence, of course. I'm not saying anything remotely like this is like a super dick above all others. This is just a dick move. Like, what kind of person is that callous to other players in a game? Anyway, 8th match, I believe. No, this is not 8th match. I counted wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. This is 7. I'm sorry. Win. A Teemo possibly misunderstood the situation and went top, even though I picked it. I'll concede that he might have misunderstood, because I was like, oh, I'll go mid. Oh wait, I got the wrong runes. I'll go top instead. Maybe he didn't catch that. I'll concede that. So he goes top, so I go mid with Pantheon. and configured for like top lane. I have teleport instead of ignite. So yeah, I have a lot of global pressure because I can ult to the top or bottom lane, and I can teleport everywhere. So I suppose it has its advantages. And here is another time in which I could have done better. I'm not familiar with playing Pantheon mid. I made a couple of key mistakes early. I was doing well early on, but then I made a couple of poor plays because their jungler was really on point and good about avoiding wards. I got just jumped. I made a few crucial mistakes early on and did not recover from it. Anyway, the Teemo fed a Jace top lane. It's forgivable. He picked up post-laning phase, and contributed in team fights decently, and split pushed well, but not too much. He was overall okay. He made up for it. He was reasonably on point. I don't remember him communicating too much, but he was doing things he needed to do, and was rarely not doing things he should be doing, or doing things he shouldn't be doing. He was on point. Overall, it was a positive, on-point team that carried me after I made a few crucial mistakes that derailed me. I could have done better. Alright, so 8th game. No, what the? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7th? What the? How can I keep getting this wrong? Okay, actual 7th game? Which is another win. It was actually an amazing team that worked hard at trying to work as a cohesive unit and communicated a lot. Everyone was super supportive, and even when they criticized, it was constructive criticism. It was one of the best games of solo queue, of any type solo queue, I have ever had in this game. The jungler even ganked when I started falling behind in lane to help me out, rather than just abandoning me. Because all the other lanes were doing okay. It's like, okay, catch that lane, push it up, okay, there, bolstered. And he was still ganking other lanes at key points. He was just on point and doing everything he needed to be doing. And that was just really nice to have. And the team just was on point and actively strived to communicate and set up team fights really well. And like the Sona would ping and like be ready and would go forward and ult, and everybody was like there because she gave a heads up. Everything was working really well. We even shared information we knew about other champions and strategized an early game strategy for like getting a snowballing early. So okay, I know a lot about this Talon guy, this champion here, so here's what his weaknesses are and how we should counterpick to him and what points he gets power spikes early in. We formulated when the jungler should gank where, what his clear path should be. It was how League of Legends is supposed to be. It was great. Next game, ninth game. Loss. Facing Yorick top. That was my matchup. Yorick top. So yeah, it was a no fun line. Team was doing okay, but the mid laner started complaining at every single setback from the get-go. Didn't contribute much to team fights, and the enemy Blitzcrank's yanks made team fighting nearly impossible given that dumb mid laner, and me being underfed due to Yorick just being completely unlaneable against. Unless you are like implicitly like a Quinn or something, you cannot really do anything against a Yorick. If you try to engage him, he'll just pop his freaking red ghoul on you and heal all the damage you do. He's just unfucking killable. Anyway, next game. Yorick top lane, same one. We won this one. Speaking of Quinn, we had a Quinn top lane this time, and I was mid on Talon. I did good early, but I made a mistake that gave the Fizz across from me a kill. I mean, I was just destroying him until I made that mistake, because I just got overconfident and died. I won mid objective-wise, but the mid got more fed than me, off of non-laning phase things, and I made a few mistakes in the later phase of the game, partly because I was just doing badly. I made like crucial mistakes that I'll endeavor to learn from, but also partially due to the fact that their team was like mostly tanks because I was first pick. And we had a decent amount of AD on our team rather than a mix about damage, so they were really freaking tanky. The game went on a little longer than it should because they started building more tanky. But then naturally, because they were building tankier a little too late, they started not having as much damage. And the people that had their damage were a little behind, except for the Fizz, who we just could start focusing. And I adjusted to, and came back to break even, once the rhythm of the game had settled in. We won, and I got a couple of good picks, but if my team hadn't been doing well, I would have never come back from my mid-game fall off. So yeah, through sheer coincidence, or just reality kicking me in the balls, every game, nearly every game, like with the exception of 2, in my placements that I lost, I was doing fine in. And then mitigating factors came and crushed me. And every game that I won, I did mediocre to bad in, and was like semi to full on carried. Let's see. Last win, I was caught and bolstered up, and then contributed, but was not nearly as good as I did in the W game, which I had a lower a higher death ratio in that when I didn't break even, but I came back and contributed a bit more in this because I was Pantheon and had some CC. So I was carried to a point, but then came back and contributed fairly well, and that completely carried first win because I just made a few crucial mistakes and did not come back from it. So yeah. The 3 wins, my team was the reason I won. And my losses, for the most part, my team was the reason I lost. Although in a couple of those, I could have played better. So yeah. It goes back to my Elo Hell video. Teammates caused losses. I claim that. But I acknowledge mistakes that I made when I make them, and endeavor to learn from them, and can acknowledge when I win, when I don't do the most of the work. It's like the counterpoints made to Elo Hell by most people are complete fallacy, or overgeneralizations. Anyway, where did I get placed after this long experience, and what are my final opinions on the overall experience of ranked placements? Well, I placed Silver 4, which is a little higher than average, apparently, but not super high. It's like pretty much smack dab in the middle-ish, from what I've read online. Getting placed Silver 4 is like slightly higher than average. It's like getting a C plus or a B. Excuse me. At least that's what I have read on the internet. So that may not be true. I'm not sure I deserved to be ranked that high considering how much I lost, but I did do decently in the lost games considering the situation. ELO numbers probably favored me a little bit here, possibly, and I won 3. So overall, yeah, some of the most horrible games I've ever had were in placements. Also, one of the best games I've ever had was in placements. I had 3 good games, one of which was the best solo queue team I've ever had. So, overall, everything I said about ranked play is true in placements. It will be a trek through living hell for you, most likely, if you are entering ranked for the first time. Because in placements, 10 matches have you just thrown to the wind. They will put you at a specific elo and just see how you do. They throw you into the lake and learn to swim. So yeah, expect complete trash to be in ranked. Some of the most toxic players you will ever encounter, you will encounter in your placements if you're going in there for the first time. But you'll also sometimes run into really pleasant people. So yeah, I ran into about 1 okayish team and 3 very nice teams. Well, not very, very nice, but like 1 amazing team, couple good teams, and like a okayish team that was trying to win and wasn't overly toxic. So yeah, overall, if you're willing to trudge through hell to let's go, let's do this goal, I'm gonna power through this, and I'm gonna go through this agonizing pit of hell and get my placement and see where I stand. If you're willing to go walking through the fiery pits of barbed wire and crawl balls first through a floor covered in glass in some games to get through that sweet impossible game and get that placement reward, I could recommend it. But if you don't want to deal with some of those toxic people you've ever seen in the game and lose a couple of games that you should not be losing, and if you do not want to go through a negative experience at all and you just want to play and enjoy the game, I can't recommend it really. If you want to see how you'll do and you're willing to go balls first through glass and have a few good matches occasionally, I went 3-7, had 4 out of 10 good teams. It's 6 of the teams were just things just destroyed the game. If you're willing to put up with that, go ahead. For the time being, though, this is gonna be Cheese of Ages signing off. Have yourself a nice day.